Today's guests are Nichole Dusche and Kate Delk. I wanted to interview Nichole and Kate because I've known them both since they were just getting started as prosecutors, and I've worked on countless cases with them. Both of them have now transitioned into criminal defense, so I wanted to get their perspective on the difference between prosecuting cases as a state employee on the one hand and working for yourself as a criminal defense lawyer on the other. Dusche and Delk is just a couple of blocks outside downtown Franklin proper in a recently renovated building. The office is a blend of modern finishes and furniture with stained concrete floors and high-definition screens mixed with historical artifacts reflecting Franklin's past, particularly including the Battle of Franklin and the Civil War. When I got there, Nichole was coordinating the return of a client's file to the client's family, while Kate was finishing up a call with a client. In this episode, Nichole and Kate reflect on the early years of their careers as prosecutors. Kate recalls the gut-wrenching murder of one of the victims she'd been working with, while Nichole remembers a case where one of the people in the case crossed some boundaries. If you like what I'm doing here on Ready for Trial, click on subscribe and follow the show on social media for updates. This is Dana McLendon, and this is Ready for Trial. I'm sitting down today with the lawyers at Dusche and Delk. With me today are Nichole Dusche, who's been a lawyer for 7 years, and her law partner, Kate Delk, who's been an attorney for 14 years. Both of them were former prosecutors, and now they do criminal defense, among other things. So I imagine we'll get into some of the differences between being a prosecutor and being a criminal defense lawyer. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for letting us be here. Yeah,
okay.
Thanks.
Well, glad to do it. Nichole, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about how you got here and what you do and why you decided to be a lawyer.
Well, initially, I was just very interested in the law and prison structure and stuff like that. I had a few professors in college that kind of got me interested in that. And when I was between my junior and senior year of college, I had to go to an internship fair as part of my degree. And I met someone from the district attorney's office at the internship fair and ended up interning at the DA's office in Nashville. And I interned in the victim witness program there and just really liked it. I liked going to court, interacting with people, seeing the cases. I just really liked being a part of it. And then I ended up working as a victim witness coordinator there after college. They offered me a full-time job. And so I worked there for several years and ended up going to law school at Nashville School of Law because I would see the attorneys that I work with.
You thought, I can do that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wanted to be, I guess, a bigger part of it. And so essentially I went to law school at night at Nashville School of Law while working. Ultimately moved from the DA's office in Nashville to the DA's office in Williamson County because Williamson County had an opportunity where as a law school student, I could actually practice under another attorney's supervision.
Right.
So I actually took a pay cut to take that position and did it. And that's where I met Kate. Kate was actually one of the attorneys who supervised me and taught me everything that I know, okay. Pretty much. So I sort of ended up getting my dream job, which was to be a prosecutor, and it was great. And I really, really, really liked what I did and worked in that office for a few years. But then I had 2 kids during that time and decided that I wanted more flexibility.
A little more control over your life.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I kind of just took the plunge to go into private practice. So there were a few a few cases that had gotten to me around the same time. And I had sort of thought about going into private practice just for, off and on. And then a friend of mine at the time posted that she had office space available. And it was kind of just that moment, like,
this is it.
Everything is kind of coming together here. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
And so I took the plunge, and every second of every day before I decided to leave the DA's office, I second guessed myself and wondered if it was really what I should do. But so far, so good. There's, of course, good days and bad days, but I definitely do have more flexibility. Mornings are easier.
I'm going to
with
ask
the
you both
kids,
about that because I know you
but-
both have little kids.
Yeah,
So I'm going to find out how you mom so hard and do this.
Yeah. And then Kate kind of was in the same boat, and I think sort of followed me. And so here we are, back together again.
All right, Kate. Well, how did you always want to be a lawyer, or did you evolve into it, or how did that happen for you?
I think I was always told I was going to be a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
I was good at arguing, I guess, since I could talk or could speak. And I actually won an award my senior year of high school for American government as a future constitutional lawyer. I'm not even really sure what that means. Went to law school, obviously, and said I would never do criminal law. It was not what I wanted to do. Took my criminal law first semester and absolutely fell in love, and have only done, until I went into private practice, I'd only done criminal law.
And you became a prosecutor in, 2007?
2008. I clerked for the Court of Criminal Appeals from 2007, 2008, and then started the DA's office in 2008.
And you were at the district attorney's office in Williamson County for how long?
In the 21st. So I mostly was in Hickman County.
Okay.
I was in Williamson office for a year, and then was in the Hickman County office for 9 years. I left in end of August 2018.
So you know every exit on the trace.
Thank you. Lots of turkeys.
Yes.
Lots of turkeys.
All right. So then you guys decided to form up and become Dusche and Delk.
Yes.
And so, Kate, let me start with you. What do you think is the biggest difference between being in working for the government and being a prosecuting attorney, prosecuting crimes, and then one day you walk out of that office on a Friday, and on a Monday you show up and you're on the other team?
I think as a prosecutor, I tried really, really hard to always understand that my job was to seek justice, not to put somebody in jail or to just punish somebody. That was never what I believed my job was. And even as a defense attorney, I still feel like that's my job, but instead of seeking justice for the state, I'm seeking justice for an individual person. So I think maybe that's my big difference, is I'm trying to get justice for this one individual human being as opposed to justice for all of the citizens of Tennessee.
Yeah, as a defense lawyer, you don't get to stand up and say on behalf of the state.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So what about you, Nichole? What do you think the biggest difference between being a prosecutor, putting people in jail, or evaluating putting people in jail, versus getting hired to keep somebody's kid out of jail is like?
Well, both can be very stressful. Being a lawyer is stressful. And that's one thing I did not realize, that it was going to be a different type of stress. Because
when you went into private practice?
Yes, mainly because when you work for the state, you're on a team of people. And you have investigators.
Your witnesses show up in uniform.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes if a case doesn't go how you want it to, most of the time it's not actually your fault. Mm-hmm. It's someone else's fault.
Right. It's something that was baked in before you got involved.
Right.
But when someone, especially in criminal defense, when literally someone's life and liberty is on your shoulders, you got to make sure that you don't mess up.
Yeah.
Because it's all on you.
Yeah, that's very true.
So react to this. People all the time ask me, how do you represent somebody who you know did it? That's the wrong question. It is so much harder for me to represent someone who I genuinely believe did not do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me too.
I mean, if they did it,
I'm going to get them the best deal I can.
right? Yeah, you're gonna mitigate the problems or roll the dice if that's
Right.
the best you can do. But when they didn't do it, man, you're sitting next to someone who, is fighting to not get punished wrongly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the stakes are
absolutely.
so much higher.
I mean, it's like Nichole said, their life is literally in your hands. I say that to my husband a lot. Like, you don't understand. Like, I literally am holding someone's future in my hands.
And there's no do-overs.
No.
Like if you don't make the right objection at the right time, it's gone.
Yep.
You don't get to go to instant replay. Kate, what do you think a good day in court looks like? How does that look or feel to you?
I think to me, it just feels like knowing, one, that I covered all the bases I was supposed to cover. I didn't forget something. I did not make that objection. I didn't do anything like that. And then if the prosecutor's a little unhappy because I got a little more than he or she expected that I would get or the case would give, I think that's definitely a good feeling. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, we're all, as lawyers, generally pretty competitive people. So there is something to feeling like you win. But I also think winning to me is still seeking that justice element just in that situation for my client and hoping that they say, I feel good about this. Like, okay, we did the best we could. Even if it is that they ultimately walk out with some kind of a conviction or something like that, knowing that either I've prepared them for that and so it wasn't a surprise, they're not shocked, or even better, maybe you don't get that conviction, you get that retirement or that dismissal.
Yeah, I tell clients in a criminal case that the object for them is to walk out the same door that I do.
There you go.
Because if you go out the door that's over there on the side of the room with the big giant key that opens it, it didn't go well.
Yeah.
Nichole, what does a good day in court look or feel like for you?
Well, I like Kate's answer, really. I agree. As long as I feel like I did everything I needed to do, I feel pretty good about it. I had one hearing just last week that I didn't get a good outcome, but I felt like the hearing went well. I was really prepared. My client wasn't upset with me. We just didn't get a good
It's weird,
ruling.
isn't it? Sometimes I think we take it harder than the people who actually have to do the time take it.
Exactly. But I mean, same thing with Kate. As long as I know what I did, and if you get a really good outcome, or it was really easy to get a really good outcome, even better.
Right.
But if you get what you're expecting to get, or what you, like Kate said, what you've prepared your client for, as long as you don't get that worst case scenario.
Yeah. So, so the worst case scenario is a great segue. What's a bad day in court for Nichole?
A bad day in court. One would be dealing with, in this case, when we're talking about criminal defense, dealing with a prosecutor who is maybe taking things too personally with a particular client, because those are generally the bad days, because you know that no matter what you say or do, it's not going to change their mind because they have this person.
Yeah, they're hardened on a position.
Exactly. That's a bad day. I
knew
don't
you were
know.
going to say that.
Do you think now, as both of you being former prosecutors, I've never prosecuted and I never will, not because I'm opposed to it, it's just too late. Do you think that you now, as private defense lawyers, look back and think, wow, sometimes I missed, sometimes I whiffed, I was wrong about that, or if I had that case, or generally just sort of the approach to do differently, I would do it differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely think of a few examples where I think, maybe I was a little too harsh on that one. There are a couple times, though, I think, maybe I was too easy on that person.
Like you missed it in the sense that you should have really held their feet to the fire.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing is now when you deal with criminal clients, and a lot of them have addiction issues.
Or mental illness, or both.
Yes, it is very eye-opening to actually spend maybe half an hour to an hour in a jail cell with them.
Oh, yeah.
To where you see that very differently. Where, of course, as a prosecutor, I think Kate and I both, looked at addiction issues and tried to help people as part of their sentence or whatever it was, but you don't see it.
Yeah,
quite
I think
the
as a
same way.
prosecutor, you experience the defendant more vicariously. Like maybe you see the interview, or you hear the interview, or you hear about them from the victim or from the victim's family, but you don't go in a cell with. Generally, you don't wind up in a tiny holding cell looking them in the eye as they tell you their life story or or all of their mental illnesses are revealed, and you go, oh,
Yep.
oh, I see.
I think it would be great if every lawyer could try out both sides at some point. I mean, it's really been eye-opening, especially at the beginning of my private practice. I think, like you said, or like you asked, there are definitely a lot of cases that I've thought, and I had a case like this when I was a prosecutor, and maybe I was a little too harsh on the person, but...
What about you, Kate? You think you see things differently from, say, this side of the table or this side of the courtroom, as the case may be?
I think I feel like I'm gonna sound like I was this great prosecutor that was always so fair. Hope I was, and I hope I was perceived that way. But definitely when I first started as a prosecutor, there are a few cases that I wish I could redo.
I think, and this is not a comment on you specifically, but I've been breaking in prosecutors for a long time now. And I think that there's a tendency among young lawyers, both prosecutors and private defense lawyers, to try to stake out a reputation or try to show people what they are. And I think early on, and I'm certain that I was the worst about that, but I think early on in someone's career, they don't really have the confidence or the comfort level to, realize, hey, this is going to be a bad day for my client, or know when to hit the gas.
Yeah.
I think I generally try to go to the prosecutors and say, I'll try this one.
Yeah.
Most of the time I go to them and I go, you got him. He did it, but let's talk about, you probably can't prove these charges or you got some problems with the case. Let's do something that might work this out. But if I tell somebody I'll try this case, that's not a bluff. That's not me posturing. And we've all seen that, from both sides.
Yeah.
So one of you, I forget which, mentioned earlier that, I think it was you, Nichole, that you had some cases that troubled you, and that sort of helped precipitate your change over out of prosecuting and into private practice. What can you say about that?
Well, part of it was one case in particular got to be too personal. Not on my end. It was actually this. I don't know if I should really get into it too much,
just
but
generalities. What made it troublesome for Nichole?
There was
the person?
A woman who was involved in the case who did not like how I handled the case. And so essentially she started kind of harassing me, and she found me on Facebook and found that we had mutual friends and was contacting mutual friends.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's always great.
And then she had mentioned something about my children's names, and it just got to be, is this worth it? Am I being paid enough to have people, treat me this way? Right. And is it really worth this type of stress for me just trying to do my job? And I had spent a lot of time, probably too much time, explaining to her why I did what I did on the case, and it didn't matter. And she just took it out of hand, and that was one thing that did accelerate my departure, I guess.
Yeah. Kate, you got any that haunt you, or that you think?
I do have some that haunt me for sure. I don't think I have any that spurred me into private practice. That was more of a family life decision than it was a case or anything like that. I have 2000. When did she die? 2009. One of my victims was murdered, and the police officer called me in the middle of the night and told me, and actually sent a patrol car to my house because he had made kind of some veiled threats when the guy ran off.
So your victim, was it a pending case?
It was that was when I started at the DA's office in Franklin. I was the domestic violence prosecutor, so it was a DV case.
I think I might remember this case.
Yeah.
So your victim was killed while the case was pending. Correct. By the defendant.
After I had told the officer that day to take out another warrant against him for violation of bond conditions.
I remember this
She
case.
did. She called him at work, and he lost his mind, basically.
And went and did the thing.
Went and killed her. Yeah, waited for her at home and then killed her with a hammer.
Yeah, I remember that case. Yeah. That was a tough one.
It was bad. And that was really early. I mean, I'd been at the office for a year or 7 months, 8 months.
Yeah.
So I was still a baby prosecutor by far. And then I had one in Hickman County that was a rape case, rape of a child. And the jurors decided that, and they said this, so I'm not assuming this, that basically by the time we tried it, she was several years older than when it happened. They said, like, she looks like she's pretty well adjusted. We believe her, but we think she's okay now. So
No harm, no foul?
no harm, no foul.
Wow.
And they deliberated for an hour and a half. It was a 4-day trial.
Wow.
And then told a few of the local Hickman County people that work with us, we got that one wrong, didn't we? They're like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
That one was bad. My victim was having seizures because of the stress during the trial. It was awful.
Yeah, now's not the time, but I very nearly quit practicing law after my first jury trial. I was second chair on a multiple count aggravated child abuse case, and the jury. So many failures happened in that case. So many of the fail safes that are supposed to prevent things from happening just absolutely didn't happen. And a kid ended up spending 2.5 years at Riverbend before the Court of Criminal Appeals not reversed, remanded, and ordered it be dismissed.
Wow.
So I was right all along. And but when the jury came back with that case, they literally split the baby. Mm-hmm. They convicted him of half of the charges and acquitted him of half, which was it couldn't be possible under the medical proof. And I went home and I cried and I thought, I have invested 5 years of my life into being part of this system, and this is what you get. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, yeah. I'd rather go sell widgets or something.
Yeah,
it's tough sometimes.
My first jury trial, I sat second chair with Kate, and we lost.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You're not going to win them all. That's okay. So let's talk about clients a little bit. Do clients or prospective clients ever ask you, how many have you won, or what's your winning percentage, as if we're keeping score like that?
I have not gotten that one. I think at the DA's office there was one prosecutor in particular who would keep a tally, but
so my answer to that is
I did not.
My answer to that is, let's talk about what winning means.
Yeah.
Does it mean beating the offer? Because I have a pretty good record at beating the offer.
Yeah.
Does it mean never having had an innocent person convicted? Well, that's happened to me. What like clients kind of want to. I don't know. I think it's maybe out of like. They have never had to hire a lawyer, so they don't really know how to measure a lawyer. Mm-hmm. So what's the strangest thing that a client or a prospective client has ever asked you, like about what are you going to do for me, or how does this, or how are you going to fix this, or what?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. I've had the. Who do you talk to get the judge to dismiss this case?
Yeah.
Or should my friend goes to church with that judge. Should I have my friend say something to the judge? I
have had someone, and this I don't think this is the strangest, but I've had a few ask, well, how much do I have to pay to get this dismissed?
To make it go away. Right.
Which
I can quote you a fee for trying the case. Yeah. If I knew how much it cost to make it go away, I would charge you a lot more.
Yeah, I'd start there.
Right. All right. So you both have families. How do you maintain some semblance of work-life balance? You mom so hard while trying to make a living, doing this, which is, for the most part, we're selling time. So no giant commission checks on a sale. No residual mailbox money. We're actually having to grind out hours. So what do you do? How do you do it? How does a day look for you to maintain some kind of balance there?
Well, for me, my husband owns a landscaping company. So he works probably 9 months out of the year, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.-ish. Maybe 5:30, maybe 7:30, depending on the day. So he's gone 12 hours a day, generally speaking. My kids are 3 and 2. And I, by the sweet grace of God and generosity of my parents, live next door to them. They gave us some of the acreage that I grew up on, and we were able to build a house. So that is my saving grace. I mean, my parents save my rear end on a regular basis.
Got a network for you.
Yes, I have a good support. But aside from that, I mean, I like I said earlier, I quit the DA's office solely because I wanted more flexibility, like Nichole said.
Like,
And-
I'm not going to work on Thursday.
right.
Just
And
announcement.
and I get to do that.
Right. Or this.
Right. I work 3 days a week. I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is when my kids are in school. Obviously, if I need to adjust that because of court schedules or whatever, I can. But that's generally, as far as my work-life balance, those are my boundaries. If the case is in a jurisdiction that has court on Monday, then I don't take it.
Just no thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. I go to court on Monday.
So, yeah, I know. So does Nichole.
What about you, Nichole?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
That's what's funny is that when I first started, I was similar to Kate. I only worked Monday through Thursday, and Fridays were my off days. But then we bought a new house, and I decided I needed to work more. But well, lately it's been particularly hard with kids out of school.
Underfoot.
Yeah, and so lately it's been a lot of setting the kids in front of the television or their tablets and
Right.
closing my office doors
Thought
in
of
the
these
house.
stupid screen time rules.
I know, right?
American Society of Pediatric Doctors.
My office doors at home have windows. And so often my kids will come to the window as I'm on a work call, and I got to write my oldest one a note out on a Post-it to like go do something else. And I just hold it up to the window
Right.
pane, like go away.
Go away. I am not an exhibit at the zoo.
But yeah, my mother-in-law lives with us. So sometimes she helps. Luckily, my husband's work schedule is not opposite of mine, but he goes in very early and gets home pretty early, and I go in a little later and work a little later, which is why it works out pretty well with Kate and I, because she usually works early and is gone early, and I come in later and I work
And do you
later.
guys cover the same cases for each other, or do you kind of just take, if it's Nicole's client, Nichole handles it? Or do
I
you,
mean, we'll
does it
cover
matter?
for each other if we need to or
Yeah.
can. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, her clients are hers, my clients are mine. And then, if she can't get to court one day or she's later, I can't do it, then we'll step in and help each other out.
Okay.
We're technically an association, so we're not a firm or anything like
Oh,
that.
okay. All right. All right. So, Nichole, if you weren't doing this, being a lawyer, and money was no object, in other words, you were going to be paid the same or even better. If you weren't doing this, what would it be you were doing?
Do I have to work?
No, I mean, I guess you could say for the same money, I'll be a philanthropist. But what would you do if the money part of the equation were taken out of it? What would you do?
That's a really hard question. I've thought of this before, actually. Something that interests me is interior design, and seems like it'd be fun to do if I was actually good at it, or maybe photography. If I was actually good at it, and money weren't an object to.
Or had time to nurture that, because I think
Right.
you've got a talent for it. You just
So,
don't really have time to do it.
Those are two interests that I would definitely consider.
Okay. Kate?
My first thought was I would be a stay-at-home mom full-time,
Okay.
but still send my kids to school a couple of days a week.
They need socialization.
Yes, they do.
skills.
But my second answer would be either teach like a junior college or something, history, political science. Those are two things I love. And write more. I enjoy writing, and I don't ever do
Like
that.
fiction or
Just kind of life, like journaling type, writing, maybe mommy blogging. I'm not sure.
okay. I want Joe Rogan's job. Stand-up comedian and podcaster. How about that?
That's not at all shocking.
right.
You would do well at that, or
Yeah.
you do well at that.
I try.
Perhaps.
I try. My thanks today to Nichole Dusche and Kate Delk. I appreciated them sitting down with me and sharing with me their stories. If you're enjoying what I'm doing here, please subscribe and follow me on social media. Until next time, this is Dana McLendon, and this is Ready for Trial.